So today we're going to dive into Millie D. Austin's book, The Healing Bath. And it presents a really fascinating take on wellness, one that uses essential oils in a way you might not expect. Not really for their smell, but for what the author calls their energetic properties.
And this quote right here, it pretty much sums up the entire book. The core idea is that real, deep healing doesn't start with the physical body, the part we can see and touch. Instead, it begins in this more subtle, energetic place that, according to the author, actually sets the stage for our physical health.
Okay, so what does that actually mean? Well, the author doesn't frame essential oil therapy as just a health trend. She calls it a spiritual practice. It's specifically designed to work on the body's energy field, what many people call the aura, with the goal of creating some pretty profound changes in our overall well-being. To really get what the author is talking about, we first have to understand this fundamental contrast she sets up. It's all about two very, very different ways of looking at what health and sickness even are. So the book basically draws a line in the sand between two worldviews. On one side, you've got the standard Western approach, which zeroes in on physical symptoms. But on the other side is this Eastern perspective, which is always looking for a deeper, spiritual or emotional root cause. It sees the physical body as just one piece of a much larger energetic system. All right, so this naturally leads us to a really core concept in the book, the anatomy of this so-called energy body or aura. How is it structured? The idea here is that we're more than just our physical bodies. According to this framework, we're actually made up of 7 bodies in total. The one physical body we all know, and then 6 subtle bodies. These are invisible energy fields that supposedly flow through us and around us, creating the aura. Now, out of all these layers, there's one that's super important for our physical health, according to the book. It's called the etheric body. The author describes it as the energetic blueprint for our physical form, kind of like a 3-dimensional circuit board that directs all the vital energy into our organs and keeps everything running.
Okay, so this begs a pretty big question, right? If this energetic blueprint is so fundamental to our health, what are the consequences when it gets compromised or damaged? And the list of symptoms the author links to a damaged blueprint, well, a lot of it might sound surprisingly familiar. The book points to a whole range of common issues, from things like chronic fatigue and headaches to depression, food intolerances, and even just a general sense of confusion, and attributes them all to damage in this auric field.
So that's the problem as the book lays it out. What about the solution? Well, that's where essential oil therapy comes in. Let's dig into what this therapy actually is and how it's supposed to fix all that auric damage. Now, this is a really important point the author makes. This is not the same thing as aromatherapy. She draws a very sharp line between the two. You see, while aromatherapy is mostly about how scents affect us physically and psychologically, essential oil therapy is presented as a spiritual practice. It's all about using the energetic properties of the oils to work directly on the aura itself. So how's it supposed to do that? Well, the idea is that this therapy goes in and does a kind of energetic, deep clean. It claims to literally repair holes and tears in the aura, neutralize harmful energies, clear out old emotional junk, and basically strengthen the whole system by infusing it with light. Okay, so that's the theory behind it. But how do you actually do it? Let's get practical and look at the main technique described in the book, the healing bath. And the process itself, well, it's actually described as being incredibly simple. You just prepare a bath with a very specific blend of essential oils, get in, and submerge yourself completely. And get this, according to the author, the energetic healing starts the very moment you're under the water. But, and this is a big but, it's not all just a relaxing soak in the tub. The book is very clear that this kind of deep energetic cleansing can have some really noticeable physical effects as the body starts to purge what she calls emotional and mental toxins. And the author gets really specific with her warnings. She mentions that things like skin rashes or blotches can happen as part of this purging process and says to get out immediately if anything feels painful. And maybe most importantly, she stresses that this therapy is definitely not for everyone, with very specific cautions for pregnant women, those in poor health, and for use on children. So, in the end, the book doesn't pitch this therapy as some kind of cure-all or a silver bullet. It's positioned as one piece of a much larger wellness puzzle. The author's view is pretty clear. We're complex beings, right? So we need a whole toolbox of different approaches to truly meet all of our needs. And that really brings us to the final thought this whole explainer leaves us with. By presenting a framework that is entirely focused on the unseen world of energy, the book really challenges us to stop and ask ourselves a big question. What parts of health and healing might we be missing when all of our attention is fixed only on the physical body?